For as long as I can remember, I've always loved being outside. Even when I was a child, it was a cold, rainy, miserable day, and what would I do? I'd throw on my rain jacket, go into the backyard, and splash around in puddles like a little weirdo. And that's continued right up into my adulthood. Now that it's literally freezing outside, the temperature has dropped below zero more than once. My response is to put on my winter coat, put on my boots, and go for walks around my neighborhood. And when I'm going around on these walks, my neighbors are primarily farmers. So they grow corn and they grow soy. And in the summer, the corn grows to 6, 8 feet tall in some cases, and they plant right up to the road because they want to plant as much as possible so they can make as much money as possible. So it's almost claustrophobic. You're walking down the road and it's very, very pressed in, green walls on all sides. But in the winter, all the corn is gone. The fields are empty and I can see for miles in every direction. And what I'm noticing as I go on these walks is that there are lots of things in my neighborhood that I had no idea existed because they were blocked out by the corn. So I look over here and oh, there's a pond. And I look over there and oh, wow, that's a nice barn. And oh, look, there's an entire house that I didn't know existed because the corn was blocking my view. And I believe this is a brilliant analog into the Buddhist teaching of non-attachment. Now, normally when people think of Buddhism, they think of detachment. They think we're supposed to let go of anything, that nothing's real and nothing matters, but this is not correct. The Buddha most definitely held on to some things after he realized enlightenment 2,600 years ago. Namely, he held on to food, medicine, shelter, and clothing. These were the 4 things that the Buddha said that we should not try to let go of. Rather, we should learn to use them skillfully. The reason being that we need these things in order to maintain our bodies, and we need our physical bodies in order to realize enlightenment. He went on to say that a human birth is incredibly rare, so we must use this rebirth skillfully in order to practice the Dharma and realize enlightenment because we don't know when we'll get the chance again. So we don't let go of everything in Buddhism. Rather, we learn when to hold on to things, friends, families, and when it's necessary to let them go. And this is hard to do because a lot of the time, the reason we suffer is because we hold on to things that we should not be holding on to. And this is a problem because as Buddhists, we understand that everything in the universe is impermanent. Everything is constantly changing. So there are many things in our lives that maybe it was good to hold on to them for a few moments, a few seconds, a few years, but now it's time to let them go. There are other things that maybe it was good to stay away from them for a while, but now we need to pick up that item once again. Farmers are brilliant at practicing non-attachment. They know when to plant their seeds, when to nurture those seeds so that they grow into corn crops. They know when to harvest those crops and allow their fields to be empty. If we practice non-attachment, then we understand when it's necessary to grow things in our lives, when it's necessary to cut them out at the root, and when it's best to let our fields be empty. Non-attachment is a very difficult practice, but it's a very good practice if we're trying to end suffering for ourselves and others. So if we are experiencing suffering, one excellent question we can ask is, what am I holding on to right now that I should let go? And the opposite is also a good question. What am I avoiding right now that maybe I should just bite the bullet and move ahead with it? When to hold on, when to let go. That is the Buddhist practice of non-attachment. And if we learn to do this in the same way that farmers do, just as they grow wonderful, beautiful crops in their field, we will grow beautiful crops both in our hearts and our minds, ending suffering for ourselves and everyone around us. Amitabha.